let's call this meeting in order if we can, please. We'll take the roll first of all. Tom Martinez.
Adam Goldstone. Andy Olber.
Noah Huber.
Chris Foster.
Okay, so that's a whole board, correct, Chair? Okay, so we're all present. So, is there any old business we need to refresh and go over? Do anything?
I can't remember what we talked about.
Last time was the poor woman with the cats. I don't know if
Yeah, maybe.
hopefully that worked out.
Yeah, can we update on that? Can we, boss? Update on her?
As I've heard from Alex Dewey, the code enforcement officer. She had requested access to the house and, to grab something. And Alex had given it to her, but I had it ported out.
Okay.
Yep.
That's as much as I know.
I think we made the right call.
Okay.
I felt bad for her, but it wasn't a matter of public safety. That was definitely a public hazard. So, excellent. Yeah, well, okay, all right. So then we'll move forward on to the discussion about the NEC. And at this point in time, I will turn this over to Mr. Blas Hernandez regarding your petition.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see you here. As Tom and I were discussing before the meeting started, we're not at liberty to amend the NEC. We have made some amendments, but they're not huge amendments. I mean, we can make it stricter, but we're not really supposed to make it less strict. And so we're basically going to review. Do they have the amendments in front of them?
Changes?
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
that the legislature says that is true.
You can review the current amendments if you like, and then talk about some of the changes in the NEC that may create some issues or problems down the road. Maybe not. You want to introduce that new code, Matt, concerning the countertop outlets?
Yeah.
We want your opinion on it to see what you guys think about it.
So one of the, at least in my opinion, biggest changes for residential for NEC is 21052C2. Island and peninsular receptacles shall be installed on, in, or above the countertop or work surface, and a provision shall be provided for a future receptacle if one is not provided. So previously, on a kitchen island, you put your receptacles in the sides. Now it's saying you can't do that. You have to put it on the top.
On the surface?
On the surface. If you're going to put one, you don't have to put one. But either way, you have to have the J box in, because they make UL listed receptacles that are pop-ups, and you'll have to use those unless you have like a raised bar, and then you can put them on a backsplash. And we had originally kind of proposed an amendment saying that you have to put at least one. But the contractor meeting, the electrical contractors in town said that homeowners don't like the pop-up receptacles, they don't like installing them, and they're just problems and service calls over and over and over again. So at this point, we're leaning more toward not putting that amendment in to require the one island receptacle.
My concern was that you move into a house and you pay good money for these homes today, and you're looking at your beautiful counter or island, and there's no outlets anywhere. I mean, what would you do? Would you be a little concerned or upset? I know I would be. It's like, where's my outlet? How am I going to plug in my mixer and all these things that are laying on the kitchen island? No, I mean, it's not that we created it, it's the NEC who put that in the code language, but I have a feeling we're gonna get some complaints. That's just me.
Do we know why the code change was introduced?
My research says that basically it's the cord hanging over the side. Kids, people in wheelchairs, we get caught in those cords and pulling like hot crock pots and stuff down and then causing injury.
Just sooner or later, you have to be more coordinated than that. I don't know what to tell you, you gotta watch your kids. It was working fine, it's a shame, but,
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a giant dog in the fight. You will probably hear it.
But, you know, I just have a feeling we're gonna get some complaints from the residents. And I think it's something that needs to be ironed out, even as they buy the house, to tell the builder should be telling them, hey, listen, we're not gonna put any outlets on your countertop, but if you do want one, it's gotta be a pop-up.
I think, I mean, if you're trying to make things more affordable, which you always are, at least you can not have receptacles out there. It's a simple solution. You just skip it, as you say. It's really easy while you have the crawl space or unfinished basement. I realize some of them are sold these days with a finished basement, but really easy to go ahead and hire an electrician, put it where you want it. It will be to code then? No. But it will be,
Yeah. Well, in the island, they have to have like a J box for a receptacle in the island. So even if they finish the basement, the power's already there.
okay, so,
So the code at least anticipated somebody wanting to put them in
right.
later if they want. And you know they're gonna put in the ones on the sides, which are not allowed in
And
the
see,
city.
well, permit for it.
Interesting.
The complaint you'll get, but it's easily deflected. At the end of the day, it is the national code. You can explain why they put it in there, and sorry about that. That's how many times a day do you say sorry about that? I mean, it's part of the. Just, yeah.
And that was kind of like the argument, or not the argument, the issue of the ground fault outlets for exterior condensing units.
Oh, yeah, that was a little different.
Yeah.
That one,
But that kind of went away because the state kind of put it on hold.
or then the 23 NEC puts it on hold again until 26.
So they're just maybe thinking the technology will improve because the contractors are complaining because, when you start up a condenser, it surges and pops the breaker.
Yeah.
And then what the heck,
Yep.
I understand why they were at.
We had a lot of trouble with those. A lot of trouble.
So the state kind of said, oh, okay, well, we'll just kind of put that on hold. You don't have to enforce it.
Cool. Okay, all right, so then what's our position going to be on that then?
To do what?
On these receptacles, we're going to adopt that, or what do you want us to do?
Well, I mean, the only thing I was asking for was either an opinion that they should at least put in an outlet. The contractors will say, no, we don't want to touch that. We just want to let it ride.
I got to push back on this. I mean, the whole rule is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just be honest with you. That's, as an old builder, the idea of having a maintenance problem is just going to be the pop-up, not always going to work. You're going to be getting a phone call at 10 o'clock at night from some pissed off homeowner. Hey, my plug in out, the ride runs up out of the countertop. What's the deal here? Get your butt over here and fix my plug in. And so I think that sometimes these rules, somebody who's sitting in some office is drinking some bad coffee and they're not making any sense by making these changes.
It's hard to cut in granite. I mean, in a lot of workers in granite.
And if you spill water or something in those,
You're
it
sure?
will mess them up.
So, so you want just our opinion on that, or what do you want, Blas? Tell me what you want.
I just want your opinion as to whether or not you think we should install, or we should enforce, or create an amendment to say, hey guys, at least provide one outlet. And, all I can tell you is that the contractors were against that.
I gotta go with the contractors a little bit. I just let them put that J box in and call it a day.
I mean, counterpoint to the J-Box though, is inevitably you're gonna have somebody plugging something in that's running across, from one of the other counters
Yeah.
to the island,
Now you just created another.
which now we actually have a hazard.
Yeah, you'll have somebody illegally come in and put, gag. The hack will basically do his best with his wire nuts, and that's what you're gonna do.
Or you're just gonna plug your blender in across the way.
Right,
Essentially,
that's true.
because you don't know how.
Right. I can picture it right now with you now. Yeah.
I don't like the idea of forcing people to cut into granite, and I don't like pop-up outlets anyways.
They don't want to cut granite, they don't want to put those in. The electricians hate them because they had so many callbacks. And they just hate those pop-ups.
And so it's not an option for us to delete this part like we would with the other code and just say that they can keep the side outlets for now? We can't do that.
We can't make the code less
That's stringent.
stringent.
So the NEC has eliminated the side outlets on the lower cabinets.
Yes.
I don't know, whatever, man, life was good, now that, yeah, what I want to say,
How does it work for
not a problem.
rolling forward existing modifications? In other words, let's say 15 years ago, right, this board convened and decided that we were going to forego outlets and islands. But now it's 2040, whatever cycle that's going to be, right? How does this modification get carried from cycle to cycle to cycle? Does every single modification need to be reevaluated every single cycle?
Yeah, the whole book is evaluated every cycle.
So,
But what was built is existing, and it was approved under that code,
Right.
so it does not have to be brought up, as long as it stays
Well,
untouched.
the work is good.
Yeah, with minor exceptions, like there's stuff like Longmont Center.
Right, this is true, if you say that.
Fire code is always locked, fire code's always active, right? Okay, so I'm just wondering, how many of these amendments that are proposed or considered, are they legacy amendments that are coming to us now from the prior cycle, and the prior cycle, right?
NEC, not much. Like when we get to the like IRC stuff, you'll see a good chunk of it.
because as of right now, the only amendment that we have that are added is the service ground conductors shall be installed in the raceway, which was LPC's standard anyways. So we kind of have that in the master standard.
But that was more stringent,
Yeah,
so we had liberty, we had the leeway to do that.
That's the only new thing that you're,
yeah, that's the only new thing that we're planning on adding to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And other than that, we're actually planning on getting rid of some of the amendments to the NC that we have right now, because the code book,
Keep shifting.
it was shifted, and now it's already had, it's already.
right.
So, okay, I guess help us, I'm sorry, I lost, help me understand this again. So of course, you're not interested in waiving away the NEC requirement, you're interested in allowing the addition of one outlet. Clarify this one outlet, you've mentioned one outlet.
Right now, you don't have to have any outlets.
Right,
Okay?
right,
But if you do put one in, it has to be a pop-up on the
Understood.
surface of the counter.
right.
Between the J box and the
The
cabinet.
J box is underneath the counter, I don't know where they would put it, but it's underneath the counter. In case they do want to put one in afterward, there's at least power there, so you don't have to tear the basement up or whatever to get to it. I just want to be clear, I'm neutral either way, I don't, I'm kind of like, Andy, I really don't care now. After listening to the contractors complain that they don't want to mess with the counters, they don't want to put those in, we're just going to leave it up to the home builders, and they work it out with the home buyers, and hopefully they come to an agreement and let it go. Just let it go.
So the amendment we originally wrote was that you had to put in one receptacle meeting 205-52 C2, so you have to put in one pop-up, at least one pop-up.
Okay, so that is more restrictive.
Yes.
Okay.
I would tend to agree with that, but to his point, is it more unsafe than for somebody to jury rig something later?
It will be.
Or run the courts, somewhere else.
And that's always been the history of,
I know it can happen with
It
anything,
happens.
but are we,
as soon as we walk out
Do
the
we
door,
alleviate that?
after the final inspection, I've had builders say,
You go
oh, you got it, I'm gonna throw this out. Hey, I know it's there, I expected it, you can do whatever you want after I'm done.
Couldn't a contractor or a homeowner turn that below cabinet junction box into an outlet itself?
To a quad. That's what I would do.
Just like you have at your sink disposal, and your dishwasher, basically, right? So instead of having the cords on top and a pop-up on top, you have a pass-through. And you run it, the cord goes into your cabinet, and if you spill your smoothie in there, well, you gotta clean it up. You gotta clean it up
So-
anyway.
Is the requirement just one circuit for that?
Is that a 20-amp circuit?
Yeah, well,
That's what he has on.
Is
Well,
that-
actually, I was assuming it would be due to the fact that it's in the kitchen. Well, that would depend on whether or not you have two 20 amp circuits on the rest of your kitchen cabinets.
Right, so,
If you already have those two, then you wouldn't need to make this a 20 amp.
so your field guys will pick that up and they do the rough inspections then?
Yeah.
They got 20 amp or 15 amp, okay. Is that be GFI delivery at the panel or is it?
That have to be G5.
At the panel?
Yeah, it has to be G5. It doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be a.
But it
There's
is,
some,
yeah, because it's food prep.
So, I really don't care either way, I just wanted to make you aware of that in case you heard complaints like, why didn't they put an outlet on the island? That's why.
We've been on the 23 for a while, haven't gotten any complaints. I will say it's a different community. We don't, having worked here, Erie, and Brighton, you just don't get the same complaints in Brighton. You just don't get them.
What kind are they doing right now? Are they putting these pop-ups?
It's just, we just have code, code is written, and no is the answer. I would say you're probably seeing a lot of them. Unfortunately, I don't get out in the field as much as I'd like to, so I can't say with any sort of, I'm not seeing it. I always hoped and anticipated when I was an official I could get out in the field more. It doesn't work that way. You try, it just doesn't. It just doesn't work. Well,
You feel good just answering all your emails.
yeah.
That's what I said about, I like this land load, doing the inspections, and
That's
then out of the tower.
it almost it speaks to another point. If the contractors hate it, and each time that you have to deal with a contractor and explain it and go through it, etc., that's time you're not doing other things that might be impactful. For instance, it's time that might pull you, especially if you're sitting there being the electrician, having to explain it. That's time that you're not out making sure doing group inspections with your electricians, making sure everybody's dialed in doing the same thing. So because you're distracted here, you're not really doing it. It's finite how much time you have to go chase all this junk. So if you end up dealing with contractors on a regular basis, it hurts you from doing other things that are impactful. So
On the other side of the coin, there will always be resistance to change, and change comes no matter what we do, right? I mean, to use some old examples, seatbelts were once reviled, right? So things to move forward. They don't always go in the right directions. There's this whole seesaw of values, right? Do we get contractors? Are you fighting contractors about a detail, or are you orienting contractors to the fact that, hey, code cycles change, you should read the codes, be aware of the codes, like, right? Accept the changes, we're here to help you. And now that those are philosophical perspectives. I feel like I think that there's not a whole lot of detail here for us to really chew on. It's, people who want to fight you will fight you.
Yeah.
Not for this hand. Yeah, exactly. And
I just kind of want a group decision as to whether or not we want to pursue having to put in an outlet on account.
although I don't feel strongly about it, I would advise against it. That would be my vote. I don't know if I need to make some sort of a motion or something. I would move that this board opt not to add an additional outlet to the island.
Surface. All right, a second.
It's 3
Opposed? All in favor?
All in favor? Aye, so that's 2.
Eyes.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay, okay.
I think this is gonna create more of a tripping safety hazard, but
Completely plausible. You're just right.
And it goes back to your point you're talking about, Andy, as well. Some of these contractors, they love to whine, but don't read the codes. And therein lies a challenge, at the public level of educating code work. And Blas now right now resolving an issue of a restaurant here in town. This plumber put in a 500,000 BTU water heater. The owner bought it off of eBay from a boiler
Good sign.
sales guy in Arkansas. It doesn't meet state requirements, it's not, it has to be constructed, and I show up there, and the homeowner, or the building or the restaurant owner, he's like ready to have a heart attack, because that was a $35,000 mistake.
Yeah.
That the plumber and whoever else did not catch. And the state schmuck shows up and said, hey, you can't use this in the state of Colorado. And so, that goes back to what you're talking about, educating these contractors. What the code says is a challenging part.
It also goes back to your very first point, though. They need to read the code, but then we gotta not, to the extent possible, not create a different code in every bloody jurisdiction. I used to be in favor of amending all sorts of things that were good ideas. A good idea is not a high enough standard to write an amendment, because you end up with an encyclopedia on your hand on top of, and so if you're killing the contractors that are coming to town to do just one job or two, because there's no way they can keep up with everything that's in this. And that hurts the consumers, citizens, whatever you want to call them, ability to have that larger market of contractors to draw from. So I've sort of 180'd on that in time. I'm trying to write interpretations whenever I can that are super detailed, but I'm living with a lot of things that I would have in the past wanted to amend. And I'm not gonna create much.
Right, so I give you your answer you need, boss? Next item.
So do we have to generate that provision then? Like,
No, there's
it
nothing.
seems to suggest that.
No, there's nothing from our end, we're just gonna let the code, the pure code, we're just gonna let the pure code, rule, and we're not gonna, we will notify the contractors and, the home builders. We don't have a lot of home builders anymore,
Yeah.
they're kinda gone.
But wouldn't we build out, I mean, how many sort of future lots, I mean, it's off topic. No, that's the focus.
We don't build a lot of houses.
How about-
Out of apartments,
Right.
condos, townhomes, pair homes, a lot of that stuff.
Unbelievable. Yeah. All right, next item, boss. What's your next request on this list?
One of the things I just want to touch real quick on is the 10 amp circuit. We're creating a 10 amp circuit. I don't even know what that looks like. I've never seen a 10 amp breaker.
So the code now allows 10 amp circuits with down to 14 gauge copper clad aluminum wiring, and those can't be used for receptacles. So it's for lighting, it's for
The new LED lights are not
thermostat, line voltage thermostats,
Interesting.
stuff like that. But yeah, it specifically says you can't use it on receptacles.
Advantageous because it's cheaper to run?
Yeah, cheaper, yeah. Cheaper
Nice.
wire.
So my only thought was, what if we say you can't use a 10 amp breaker? Because I can just see some homeowner buying a 10 amp breaker at the Home Depot and plugging in their stereo system in the living room. That's not allowed.
Can we prohibit the use of 10 amp breakers in Longmont?
More restrictive.
But we
It's
could, but it's not gonna stop when people from caring.
Exactly right, that's exactly right. The other thing that's a little sketchy, the other thing that's a little discomforting is the
That'll do.
use of aluminum wire, mixing in aluminum with the rest of the coppers, because where the aluminum ties in needs to be made for aluminum, right?
You said aluminum clad copper?
Copper clad aluminum.
Okay, so I was gonna say, you don't want those connectors to be touching dissimilar metals, right?
That's the list of purpose.
Copper clad aluminum.
So would it expand and contract more on the inside, I would think? I mean, I'm not a physicist, but I would think the aluminum would go through a different, but maybe if it's such a low voltage, it doesn't matter.
It won't heat up
Yeah,
like the
I don't know.
277 and stuff did.
Way above my pay grade.
Well, and that's why it's that 14 gauge copper clad is gonna be limited to 10 amp branch circuits.
Right.
I mean, I would move to just axe both
Really?
from the code, just so we don't have to. That sounds like a headache for
That was my
you guys.
thought, but I
I'm
Yeah.
devil's advocate. This city is all about making things more affordable. That's a rare, small thing that's barely more affordable, barely. I'm sure, I don't know what the cost difference will be.
But let's see why.
If they even pass along.
It'll be with the market. But I mean, you can look at it broadly, just to make a quick argument. If it's cheaper developers have more incentive to build, so you get more supply. So that should reduce, in theory, economics-wise, it should work. Will that actually work? Probably not.
But my concern with that, again, is if somebody installs that 10 amp wiring, and some idiot goes in and puts a 20 amps appliance on that wiring, okay, and there's a fire, guess who they come looking for? Cascade.
Or, you know, you run short of your regular 14
Yeah.
and then grab
So,
copper clad.
I think, Chris,
That's
you-
what it's
if you want to make that motion, go ahead.
Yeah, so I move to strike both the 14 AWG copper clad and the 10 breaker circuit from our adoption.
There's a second?
So I'll second that motion.
Okay, then, seconded, all in favor?
The one day, I'm just gonna leave it as written would be in my, but I can certainly see the arguments are all accurate.
So everyone except.
Everyone should accept me, yeah, I would let it go. At the end of the day, it's sort of all the arguments, for striking it are, well, if somebody does something dumb and it's just not enough, we can't protect the world against, you know, using this while you're driving and so forth. I mean, it's just, you can't fix stupid.
We're about to try.
Right, it spoke too soon.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Now, you ever signed that, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it's August, right?
Yeah, it's $500.
How about that?
So it's.
I'm learning
The,
today.
the solution is take your windows. Chase one problem into the next chord.
I did that too.
That's it.
One time, I never do it again. I had one of those that night, so you can see.
Wow.
I was like, this is dangerous.
What?
So it's
People do it all day. You can't see.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so, all right, let's move on. Switches. Next one, 210.7.
Yeah, I guess that would be the only one, other one that. Switches cannot rely solely on battery power unless the lighting outlet is automatically energized upon battery failure.
Where do you see this?
Is this
So that's 210.7.
What application is it?
3 ways typically. So they make remote 3 ways. So you can just put a battery powered switch there, battery powered switch there, and it automatically talks to the light. Now this is saying that you can't do that unless if the battery fails, the light automatically goes on.
Yeah, this was back.
Now typically what I've seen and heard of is on a 3-way you'll have one switch that is hardwired, and then your slave switch is actually the battery powered and light. And that is still perfectly okay with it.
So is the intent here to not allow the light to go off without the homeowner understanding that the switch itself has failed? Is
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
And the light is controlled, so what is shutting the power off to the light itself? Is the power off of the light internal to the light and the switches are just talking to it?
Yes. If it's fully remote, that's exactly that.
So the light itself is talking to the switches and it is actually fed all the time.
Mhm.
It's just that the loads only pass through to the element when the switches tell it to. So
Yeah.
if one switch dies, then the power goes through the light bulb. I don't understand why we would be getting into essentially what sounds like software.
Yeah, manufacturing.
So the batteries provide power to the bulb or?
No, batteries only provide power to the switch.
So they're just switching mechanisms.
Yeah, and then so the light would still have to be hardwired.
Oh, that's a nightmare problem to
But it just seems like a really odd thing to try and use an NEC for, because this is essentially the three pieces of gear, right?
Yeah.
2 switches that talk to each other and talk to the light fixture or the light bulb. And then in the light bulb itself is where the switching on and off is, right? So I don't understand why the NEC is attacking this or trying to mitigate this.
I think it's just so you can't be in the dark. Like, if the battery fails, the light just can't be permanently off.
What this in effect does is it makes manufacturers not be able to build light bulbs a certain way, right? It
Yeah.
limits the legality of a certain kind of light bulb.
Yeah.
So that when your switches stop having batteries, the light just doesn't
Turn off.
turn off. Or in this case, if this didn't exist, it wouldn't turn on.
Yeah.
It gets stuck in the off position, right?
Yeah, this isn't making manufacturers having that normally closed circuit in there.
Mhm.
So is the circuitry on low voltage wiring then to the switches?
But there's nothing.
So the switches have,
So, how does the light know that wireless or something?
Yeah,
But my guess is that it would be, instead of sending, like,
So
a
it's
signal
always
to
sending
telling
something,
the
yes.
right, it's always telling
So when
you
it
that
dies,
there's a signal.
it's all Bluetooth then?
Yeah.
It's basically, it's all radios.
My-
Yeah, exactly.
Which means it's gonna die faster.
Right, because it always has to be telling you that it has that.
I haven't seen any, I mean, one or two in basic finishes right now.
That's like, you know, I just sort of wrote my little checklist there is one of the reasons if you're gonna pass an amendment, frequency, it should not only be like really impactful and make things genuinely safer, but how often are you gonna see it? Do you wanna have an amendment for something that comes up once a year?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, how often do you see
Not very.
switches?
I mean, I don't think we could actually do anything to this, because anything we do would be less restrictive.
Yeah.
I agree, because it
That's
was
true.
just as.
Like, and insofar as the radio, you know,
Well-
they like that, this is in the national code.
So if they
they're gonna
don't know how to
change
do it, then it's just gonna wire the switch.
Yeah.
And everything's fine.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and even if you, like, the way this is written, as long as you have one wire, then like the battery part doesn't actually have to
Oh.
do anything.
so
Like, you just have to have one
That's what
wire
this says,
switch.
that's what this
If you
says,
have,
exactly.
like, all wires.
Do you wanna turn this into a motion?
Oh, I think it's fine to leave it, it's like,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the only other thing was to say, we don't allow this section and everything has to be hardwired. That's an
That's more,
extreme.
that's more restrictive, I guess.
I don't think you need to.
Yeah, because there may be a
I mean, because like the couple times you do it, it's probably a retrofit,
Yeah,
right?
It's exactly what it says, the basic finishes.
So if
Yeah,
if the switch is there and it's not taken out, you guys see it, then you're covered.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, I agree with that, I think it's just how they just do alone, but right.
So of my list of significant changes, those are really all the controversial ones.
Because this, so
Can
how
we
much?
revisit this one here one more second? Sorry, Tom. Let me ask you this question. Is it possible that the idea here, the valuable idea here would be to say, let's protect the means of egress, only the means of egress. So you can't use this kind of system on a stairwell, for example, right? Because you don't want to be at the bottom of your stairwell the day that the dang thing stops working.
Good point.
That's the only time. So the other thing here, I guess, it's not really, you know, what's interesting about this is it doesn't safeguard you against a power failure, right? Like, if power goes off, your light's off anyway.
Yeah,
So maybe it's a moot point. Maybe there's nothing else.
Yeah,
Maybe
no
I'm,
matter what the means of egress,
Yes.
in a commercial building,
right,
it's still gonna have to have that minimal. standard.
right. And this is residential only, correct?
No, this is for everything.
Switches in,
was there any feedback at the contractor meeting about this one?
No. No, and we went through this whole list one by one with the contractors, and yeah, the only one that they really had issues about was obviously the island one. And then a little bit the feeders that require surge protection. You know, so now, if you come into a service, not only does that service have to have the protection, if you feed another panel with it, that feeder now also has to have surge
Okay,
protection.
so you're not, okay.
How much is
I know the word feeders, I'm thinking, okay, you guys live in farms or what? So that's a technical term for something electrical?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know what it meant, feeders. I was thinking of it. Green feeders somewhere down.
Yeah.
We're out the country or what? So
I don't know how much those
You don't know?
surge runs, but I don't think it's two.
Two Jackson?
Yeah, no.
Well,
It's
now-
less than $100.
For, like, what's a feeder?
A feeder is defined as something that is feeding like a sub panel.
It's not a main panel.
It's not the main panel.
Okay,
So you have your main service coming in from utility,
right.
and then any other power distribution centers that feeds.
Some 8 gauge, whatever, so that's,
Yeah.
that's sub pass.
That's a feeder.
You're running something out to your garage.
Okay,
You might run something to your basement for the furnace and then for some electric dryers
Right.
together, and you have a panel there,
okay.
and then you pull those two out
Right,
there.
right, okay, all right. No, I didn't, it's good.
Surge protectors expensive.
Not very. I mean, they make really expensive ones.
Okay, so
For your standard home, no. The 3-phase ones, those are a little bit pricier.
And isn't that where most feeders would be found? I mean, isn't that what, so you're bringing in 277 at your box, and then you're running 277 somewhere else in the house to feed, like a furnace, an AC unit, or a dryer. I have a dryer that runs on 277, 240, sorry. No, 240. You know, and it's a little sketchy, because I don't have the right service, right? Like, I don't have the right plug there for it. You need a ground.
Right.
But when I thought this whole thing through, I was like, oh, this is complicated, right? So you're asking for a surge protector, that's interesting.
But yeah, that's what the NEC is saying, yeah.
But which again, I don't think we could really do anything.
No, not really.
Because like,
Yeah, you're not gonna relax that, yeah.
They changed it, so, okay, all right, I'll move it. All right, 220.57, electric vehicle supply equipment load calculator figures. What-
The NEC into, was it 225? There's a lot of your branch circuit and feeder calculations that kind of tell you how to go through like a load calculation. And so they included the EV supply equipment into that calculation. That's all that is.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Good, all right, allows set, 220.7, allows the use of set point value of energy management system and load calculation, that's another just lingo in the code.
Yep, that's, what that is, it allows an energy management system that you can adjust, kind of like an adjustable
Smart
breaker.
panel, basically?
Yeah, and so you can use that, your highest available on your energy management system in your load calculation instead of using a hard number.
Okay, all right, so that will change as well, that's all just part of the process.
Yeah.
Okay, 225.41, emergency disconnect required on all 1 and 2 family dwelling units.
So that's something we already had,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
and that's one of the amendments that is now getting rid of because it's now in code.
Okay, okay, all right, so we have a motion on that, either. Surge protection on all feeders, we did
That's
something
just
about
Take
that.
care of that.
All right, system over 1,000 volts, what's that all about?
So the 23 NEC adds an additional section to almost every part of the code. Instead of having a different, just a section in the article, that would have been just in 225, just somewhere in there, systems over 1,000 volts. Now they've changed it so that now there's a completely separate article for systems over 1,000 volts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really the only change that's there.
All right, and we talked about 240, the 1480 W gauge copper aluminum for 10-watt rest. That's no longer allowed. Is that correct? Or what you understood?
Yeah, so I don't say that.
All right, good. All right, temper resistant receptacles. I think you expanded the list on that. So
Don't take the NEC expanded list on that.
Okay, from what to what? I'm just curious.
Oh, I don't know exactly. I don't remember.
Okay.
It's almost everything now.
Yeah.
Everything residential and anything where a child might be.
When we were kids, we just learned by heart.
Yeah, don't put that bobby in there, son.
but just once.
Well, I didn't, so I became an electrician.
All right.
This is fascinating.
Yes.
The new article on cannabis oil equipment, the cannabis oil systems, is it found with materials? What's the story there?
That's just how to protect the equipment and the personnel. So 512 is part of the special systems and hazardous locations chapter.
You guys see a lot of those things. All right, swimming pools should have
Equipotential.
equipotential, thank you. Bonding with or without associated electrical equipment related to the pool. Explain that.
So that is, even if there's no electrical equipment for the pool, they still have to bond all the metal parts.
Like the pumps, etc.
Yep, well, no, the same, there's no pumps. Because it's saying without associated electrical equipment.
Do we ever see a pool without?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a
gravity-driven pool.
No, not really. Well, and I think that may be kind of more toward your above ground storable. The big ones,
Right.
not necessarily the inflatable ones,
Right.
like kiddie pools, but your big ones that you set up, those are going to require some sort of equipotential ground. If they have a metal ladder, it's got to have a ground.
We don't require permits for that anyway, so.
We do actually, over
5,000
2
gallons.
foot, 5,000 gallons.
5,000 gallons.
We have it in our backyard, guys. It is like 3 foot tall or, and about 50 foot round. And my youngest son, this was many, many years ago, went through the nosedive in that thing, it collapsed aside. We had the great wave, hit the basement wall, flooded the basement.
Nice.
So the window wells out.
Oh, my gosh.
It was the tidal wave, man.
Those are funny YouTube
Last
videos.
pool.
Oops. Yeah.
Never yet. So, okay, good. All right, so on this list of changes, then, let's pretty much resolve what we resolved.
How do you inspect this 680-26? How do you, what does enforcement look like? I'm curious.
Number 6.
Yeah, your last, so like what, you're gonna get a temporary above ground pool in your brand new build? Or are you gonna ask for a permit when someone buys a pool?
Yeah.
If they want to set up an above ground pool, so I think you guys said it.
Yeah.
If you got 5,000 people.
Yeah.
$1,000.
They need to.
Yeah.
I guess the way this structure works is your neighbor looks over your fence and goes, oh.
That's exactly right.
The HOAs,
Yeah.
report them in,
Yeah.
and then you have to follow up on them, and they're, yeah, they take a lot of time.
That's harsh.
And we'll go out there. And so, for the temporary storable pools, that would only be if they have a metal ladder. Yeah, only the metal parts are gonna have to be equal potential bonding.
We're gonna have a metal deck around the pool,
Well, then, yeah, it's definitely.
aluminum deck.
You guys don't
Are you
see.
gonna have like a layman's terms, like that on
5
that
pools a year.
website or something for?
I mean,
Well, this
For
is,
the homeowners that like are not gonna understand what that means?
so the significant
How many
changes page
pools
that I
you
have
see
here,
in every.
that's just what's
you
in
mean
the
like
2 or
a
3.
permanent?
Sure, I'm just saying,
Oh.
like when they pull up, like they're gonna have no idea what
Really?
it means.
correct, yeah, we'll have to put
Yeah.
that in terms
I reviewed
in a stamp to put on the
3
drawings,
years.
yeah.
Yeah,
They're all over the place here. All over the place. People with a lot of,
Space.
space.
You can get those pre-manufactured pools that are made in a factory.
Yeah,
I
like,
see a big old crane pull up to the house, they pick up the pool, and they lift it over the house, and then they set it down in the back door.
Yep.
That's how they do it.
yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so then do we need to have a motion then to just say we've approved all these changes?
for this part,
Yes.
yeah.
I move that we approve the changes earlier approved.
Well, no, like the,
And then I would also like, I would also like a vote to indicate that we may proceed with the adoption of the NEC.
As amended.
I move that we approve the adoption of the NEC as amended.
second,
Ready? First, seconded, all in favor? All opposed? We got, real quick, everyone has a copy of the last meeting's minutes.
I think we still need to do these changes, right? These or is that last one?
That was that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
different, so we said this.
That was as amended.
Okay, so at the minute, I have any questions, we briefly talked about the whole thing. I will accept a motion to accept the minutes from last meeting. If someone ordered,
Move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
okay, first and second, all opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Motion accepted.
to those.
Right on.
Very good, okay.
This is an interesting one.
Next,
Actually.
order of business, there's an election of chair and vice chair, approval of post location of meeting, notice, etc. Do you want to expand on that, Mike?
It is a requirement for all the city boards to make a motion and approve an official meeting location for their meetings. The posting location for your meeting agendas. And that official location, the city recognizes as the website. We post them in other locations, but you just need to make a motion to approve the official posting location as the city's website.
Okay. Sounds like, I mean, my thoughts are, I like this response here myself.
Well, it's the website.
It's just that, you can have your meeting
So-
wherever you want to have it. It's just the posting of the agenda.
I move that the agenda is posted on the website.
Second. Okay, that makes sense.
Then we have to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next order of business, election of chair and vice chair. You want to move forward with that, because I thought we had made that change.
I thought we did it, I thought you were.
It was in the last meeting minutes.
Yeah.
It's in the last meeting minutes.
That's right, exactly, so how long is that?
It's good for a year,
Okay,
so you have to redo it again later this year.
okay, all right, so then, I think we'll go over it, so.
And that we just be added codes.
When are we doing that?
Somewhere around September-ish, I'm guessing, maybe. We're hoping to get those officially out through council, obviously by the end of the year. so that we can, make them officially enforceable January 1st.
What changes do you see coming, Matt?
Go get my 6 pages of notes for the IEC, everybody.
It's a good job, because we've also been pushing off a good chunk of
Yeah.
stuff for like the last 3 adoptions.
Well, as far as I know, we're still not planning on requiring sprinklers in single family or two-family homes.
Okay.
I think we're
What
still.
about the EVs? I mean, a couple of years ago, we talked about the EV charging station on every new house. Is that still dead? Or is that?
This, I think, this next adoption cycle, we need to talk about this Colorado model energy electrified.
So last
You won't
cycle,
have a choice. You're gonna-
last cycle we put in EV ready.
Yeah.
Not EV and PV ready.
Yeah, but then there was the one that we pushed off was the solar rotation, like it was there was the roof pitch had to be
Oh,
locked
yeah.
and
I don't,
placed, and we pushed that out last time.
This is now this model energy code. It gives you the roof profile and the exposure profiles for the roof. Essentially, it's everything. I think it's from like 110 to 270. It's everything.
That's what it is.
So what's the service side regarding there to Hampton? To have an EV station?
I don't believe it goes down that road. I think it's silent on that. Yeah. It's just like a one-page amendment in the energy code, and it really looks similar to the state. It's appendix, I want to say RB, so residential B, like the second one. And it's like literally one page. The thing that's most confusing about it, if you will, or open to interpretation, in that appendix, he uses the word site, but you don't know if it's referring to an individual lot or to the subdivision at large. And it's the where that comes into play is shading. It's talking about shading. So if I've got a 2-story home built immediately to the south of a ranch, which is north, and of course my son is cruising through this way, and I've created this 2-story home. Now, if site only meant the lot, then okay, you can do that. If site means the subdivision, then you're in trouble.
Right.
So, because you can't have the obstructions. I'd look at it, if planning, calls the site the lot, then life is easy. And just keep doing business like you've always done.
There's another interesting wrinkle there, so the energy office, Colorado Energy Office, has these stakeholder meetings that they keep having, and they actually presented at the Educational Institute in Longmont this past March. And they discourage the location of your solar panel off your roof and somewhere remote. They discourage that. Although I think that's actually a huge bonus to say, hey, you can't get it on your roof because it's shaded? Cool, you can put it in the corner of the backyard if you have the acreage. Or if it is the site is really the subdivision, you can put all the solar panels in one corner of the subdivision and put the houses over here, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting wrinkles there. It's, as most new code is written, it's not fully baked. So there'll be a lot of things to discuss and ways which you might want to look at it and manipulate it to Longmont's interests.
and the 24 IRC and energy code has not, the energy portion of the IRC and the energy code hasn't been published.
I think it's in litigation.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah.
So,
I mean, there was a lot we flushed out last time, for sure. I mean, just trying to make sense
So
of like what it
you're
is,
already-
the cost impacts of it.
I'm passing the program out a lot. If I get all the place, names, phone numbers, and emails.
Yeah.
So we can send it's very common message to everybody.
I do remember this. It's a good idea, but you can never not get all of us. Whenever you email, everybody has to be in. It was one of the
Right.
city attorney stressed that a
Do
bunch
not
of years
use
ago.
reply all
Yeah.
Right.
or blind carbon copy. Put everybody in the blind carbon copy.
Okay, that's how you refer it.
Yeah, that's how we
So it's
prefer
like-
it. That way you don't, it would be an
Yeah,
open
yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
You would open a meeting if you all hit reply all.
Would it be best if we just always went through you every single time so that we don't have a
That's
And-
great.
and
I'm not
absolutely.
gonna be the official board secretary, but I will train the board secretary. I'm the board secretary for Planning and Zoning Commission, and everything communication-wise comes through me, and I distribute it to the commissioners. It's just a protection for them so that they know that it's coming from the city and they don't hit reply all. I put that extra protection in there.
That's good to know.
Get
Are we
around
down
to
to a couple spots?
We'll get around to Stephanie's cards.
How's Linda? You heard from her since she's retired?
Say again?
How's Linda? Have you heard from her since she's retired?
She's doing some traveling. She's enjoying retirement. We've touched base with her a few times. We missed her a lot. She had a lot of years of
Is there
knowledge.
Is your son still on the court?
He's out.
He's out?
Yeah.
My grandson is now a corporal. He just got done his basic in San Diego in September. So he's now in an embassy guard training school.
But he's a Marine.
He's a Marine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good thing. I'm happy for him. He needed it.
That'll get him in shape,
Yeah.
put some discipline in them.
Very lucky. Back in graduate high school. And there's a little conversation with Thomas.
This is where we are.
You're going to be told we're joking to graduate. Your only job is to graduate. You can't go to the Marines until you graduate. If you get self-control with why, you can't graduate. Yeah, I said, you have to become a Marine, you have to get through the process. All right, Grandpa. Well, he's 30 knows he was not going to pass. He was not going to graduate.
Is it going with this?
I think it's traveling now.
And he finally graduated, went to the court, so good thing. Quite the pomp and circumstance, seeing like graduation. That is crazy.
Yeah, so that business card is Stephanie Nguyen, and she's Linda's replacement. She works with Bloss and Matt, and she'll be taking over this board. She just couldn't be here for this meeting, so you'll probably see me for a couple more meetings.
Will we be meeting here again?
It's your preference.
It's a little more, for me, it's a little more personal as opposed to the chambers.
Agreed.
I don't like dragging the mic system.
We don't have 1,600 people here.
And that's the thing. If you find that you have something controversial that.
Yeah, the cat thing belonged over there, I mean, for sure, but
But you will always be recorded by Longmont Public Media. That is it's a contract we have with them, and we do record all of the meetings, so.
For me, I like the personal rapport with you guys. You know, we talk about things, you know, off the cuff. You know, to me, that's what team building is all about. You know, there will be a time when we've had to make some tough decisions. Like the cat lady one, you know, how else to call her. You know, I remember the one where the fire sprinkler has a left hand. We had to make that decision as well about whether to do for water service for rebuilding. You know, and that didn't go well with those guys, but you know, we have to make some tough decisions.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
We got a museum coupon.
Fire's not pushing you guys on the residential sprinklers at all?
You know, it's kind of ironic since the fire people were the ones that put it in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just curious, elsewhere.
They're busy and, like I said, have you guys made the amendments to the IFC yet? Oh, yeah, we're gonna get to that, so it's like they're behind. I just leave one on there.
I called Michelle.
Yeah, they get long.
Yeah, I made it. Michelle, I just expect a really new fire station, Station 1. I said, you know, you guys really got a cool snow melt system. He's at the north side of that driveway. I drove by there, that's probably the biggest device in that thing. Is it not working? You guys didn't turn it on. She said, Tom, I don't know, but I better go check that out. I said, well, brand new things. So I don't know whatever happens when you're going back. So, it's good. So, anything else?
No.
Yeah, move adjourn.
Yep, make motion to adjourn.
So move, any comments? Done? Adjourn.
Good to
We're
go.
good. Thank you, guys.
It was a pleasure.